Welcome to BoardCheck. I am Jeremy the Impact York, your host for the evening. Obviously, today's show is Seeing Red. Not only in honor of the Gladiators, because I have a special Gladiators announcement coming up towards the end of the show, but also a lot of teams are seeing red right now, as of in red they can end this series, or red they're about to get ended. The way today's format is going to work is I'm going to talk some Boston Bruins here in period number 1. Period number 2, we're going to talk about the rest of the Eastern playoffs, and period number 3, we will talk about the West and then the special announcement. So, without further ado, let's start talking about those Boston Bruins, our Boston Bruins, especially Gladiator fans, right? Now, right now, Boston is down in the series 2-1, and the reason they are down 2-1 is they recently lost game number 3, but they won 2-1 in game number 1 in a game I don't think any of us saw it happening that way. Lost 4-3 in overtime in game 2. And then game number 3, and the reason I bring up game number 3 is it ended on the most ridiculous way. And I think the same referees that are in the Rangers series are also in the Boston series. They are very choosy as to what they are calling. I'm not calling out the refs in general. There was a lot of other things that could have took place to where they won, and they did not. But game 3, they lose because there was a penalty on the Bruins and a no call on Bobby Ryan, who threw an elbow and he didn't even have a stick in his hand. He clearly dropped his stick or had it knocked out of his hand, and the first thing he did was run towards the boards where he was at, right on the sideboards, and throw an elbow, to which the Bruins player responded by jabbing him with his hand, which he probably shouldn't have done either way. Not saying he's not guilty, but it should have been a double penalty. Either way, on the ensuing power play, I believe Bobby Ryan had something to do with that going in as well, which was very stupid, very dumb. I couldn't believe that it ended the way it did, because Boston has been playing too hard. Just like I said, if Boston is going to win this, they have to be Boston strong, and so far they have played Boston out of their mind strong. They've had all kinds of injuries on the defense. You got to look at people like McAvoy, who was just signed a couple of weeks ago, and suddenly this kid is probably the second best defenseman we have on the ice. Charles had a couple interesting moments where he's a little slow getting off the ice, such like that. Yeah, I'm not that worried about that. It hadn't really cost us. There's just a lot. Pasternak has really started to get going. Right now, some of your, some of the Pasternak has a goal. He has a couple assists. He leads the team with 3 points. Chara is averaging almost 28 minutes on the ice. Riley Nash, Tugaret, you guys know they're the usual suspects here, but all these people are doing everything they can. It leads to what the next game is, I believe, tomorrow night. I'm trying to get that on the screen there. There it is. Actually, it's going to be tonight. It'll be going on while this airs, actually. 7:30 on the USA Network, at least locally. It's also on NESN, SN, and TVAS as well. At 7:30 start, Ottawa at the Boston Bruins. Gosh, we need to win this one, because I don't want it to get too far out of hand. If we win this one, then I feel real good about it. If we don't, then I don't. But a lot of you guys have asked, can the Boston Bruins win this series? Yes. Will they? Yes, I actually think they still will. They're a better team than Ottawa, and you're going to get the winner of the Rangers-Canadiens series, and it looks like it's going to be the Rangers. None personal Boston fans, or none personal Ranger or Montreal fans, but if you're Boston, I'm not that scared of either of those teams. I think it's a great matchup. Can you beat Ottawa? Yes. Will you beat Ottawa? Yes. How are you going to do that? You're going to keep playing Boston strong. And, the Brad Marchands of the world have not necessarily been the crack stars they're supposed to be. So when he starts being a big-time star, guess what? Him and Patrice Bergeron, when they start playing like the stars that they are, suddenly the goals are going to double. Everything's going to go great. So just keep playing your game. Keep playing Boston strong. Everybody's behind you. Shout out to the people who did the Boston Marathon the other day. You are bigger and better humans than I. I didn't try to qualify, but 1 year I may just do the Boston Marathon. We'll have to get to that. But that's going to do it for me for period number 1. When we come back for period number 2 here on BoardCheck, we will be talking the rest of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And we'll talk the West after that. See you after the break. And we're back for period number 2 right here on BoardCheck. Jeremy the Impact York joining you. And, we just talked about some Boston Bruins. Right now I want to get into the Eastern Conference playoffs. And as we get into the Eastern playoffs, all right, let's talk about the Eastern playoffs. We just talked about Boston. The winner of the Boston-Ottawa series will get the Rangers or the Canadiens. Let's talk about that series. It is tied 2-2 currently. In something that has surprised a lot of people in this big-time throwback series. The Rangers win 2-0 in Game 1 in Montreal. Game 2, it was in Montreal. Game 2 went all the way to overtime where Montreal won 4-3. Game 3, 3-1 Montreal. And Game 4, which was just last night, 2-1 Rangers. So this game is going to move. It's going to be on USA tomorrow night with that game in Montreal. This thing is going 7. I don't know if you guys know that, but a 7 o'clock start tomorrow, like I said on that one. What you need to know about this series, it might be the most physical series in the entire playoffs. Absolutely may be the most physical series, and that's no disrespect to anybody else, but these teams are absolutely crushing each other. Going on right now is game number 4 between the Capitals and the Leafs. Do we have a score update? There we go. It is 4-1 Washington. Toronto is currently on a power play with 2:20 left in the first. Ouch. It looks like Ovechkin has woken up. Washington won the first game, of course. Toronto won the next 2. That's why they are currently up 2-1 in the series, which has just been unreal. All the games in this series have went to overtime. The first and third games went to 1, and the double overtime thriller for game number 2. This is on NBCSN currently, among a bunch of other networks. The scary moment before, during practice, Braden Holtby got ran into by one of his own players and kind of knocked him down for a second. He was able to get up. He's actually in this game now, and the fact that he's only give up 1 goal tells me Braden Holtby's fine. I didn't say it before. I think the Rangers are going to win their series and upset the number 1 seed of the Canadiens. I think Boston's going to win their series. I still think the Capitals are like the Yankees right now. They're so stacked with so much talent. Everybody expects them to win. They're my pick. But the antithesis to all this is the Maple Leafs, who have all this young talent. You got like all the big veterans against all this young talent, and they're playing with house money. The Leafs probably didn't even expect to be here, so the fact that they are, no matter what they do, they're considered successful at this point. So if they were able to knock off the Capitals, this thing could just be turned upside down. I still think the Capitals are going to win this series, but, after tonight, I may change that a little bit. Although, if they're up 4-1 currently, the Capitals are taking control again. But it's a series worth watching. It's some of the best and biggest stars in the NHL. And then lastly, in the East, you've got the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Pittsburgh is up 3-1. I actually thought I would be talking about a Pittsburgh sweep at this point, but the Blue Jackets woke up and remembered their hockey players. I think Pittsburgh's still going to dominate. Let's see, their next game, I believe, is tomorrow night. I got that right? Can we get a next game? Yeah, tomorrow night on NHL Network, 7 p.m. start. Should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for period number 2. We went through the entire East. Now we'll finish up with the West with period number 3. But Jeremy and the Impact York, we'll see you on the other side of the break. And we're back here finishing up on BoardCheck with period number 3. We will get to the special Gladiators announcement here shortly, but right now I want to talk about the Western Conference playoffs. Let's start with the Oilers and Sharks, which I think is the most intriguing matchup. Sharks were able to tie it up last night. I was able to talk to friend of the show and great friend of mine, Cody Elias, who has went to both Sharks games out there. And has just had a fantastic time. But I told him last night that you can't hold Edmonton back for too long, that the Sharks need to score at least 4 goals. Well, they scored 7 last night to even this series. That's after winning Game 1 3-2 in overtime. And then they proceeded to not score for Game 2 or Game 3 as Edmonton won 2-0 and 1-0. This series will shift. They will play tomorrow night at 10:30 on NBCSN. They are the second part of the doubleheader. Should be a fun game. Who's going to win this series? Well, I still think it's going to be San Jose. Although I may have picked Edmonton before. You know what? I think Edmonton's going to win this. I'll just completely change it no matter what. I absolutely think that the Oilers are going to somehow figure out a way to pull off this victory. Now, the winner of this will get the winner of the Anaheim Ducks Calgary Flames series, which is now 3-0 in that series, as Anaheim has completely dominated Calgary in almost every facet. Not just overwhelmingly, but they're winning every game. 3-2 in Game 1, 3-2 in Game 2, 5-4 in overtime, and it was fantastic overtime. In Game 3, Game 4 is actually tonight at 10, so we could actually see our first second round team moving on, and you can see our first and possibly only sweep, because I don't think anybody else is up currently. Who's going to win this series? Yeah, it's the Ducks. The Ducks are going to win this series, and like I said, they're going to get who I think the Oilers. They don't get the Oilers, they get the Sharks. Either way, that is a fantastic matchup. I just realized that at least, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different teams from Canada made it into the playoffs. Wow. Good for Canada. Actually, you know what? There could be a couple more sweeps as we move up to the Minnesota Wild and St. Louis Blues. The Blues currently lead 3-0. They've won all 3 games, 2-1 in overtime, 2-1, and 3-1. If Minnesota's only going to score 1 goal a game, then yeah, they're absolutely going to be out. This game shifts to St. Louis for the 4th game. That is a 9:30 start. That's actually tonight, according to this. All right. So 9:30 tonight, that game's going to be on. Should be a lot of fun on NBCSN. And they could actually be our first sweep. And who do I think is going to win this? Absolutely the St. Louis Blues. It's the St. Louis Blues. And they're going to get either the Nashville Predators, who are up 3-0, on the Chicago Blackhawks. So, yeah, there's a chance that the Blackhawks and Capitals may not be anywhere near the second round. This is it could be a nightmare for the NHL. Nashville has won Game 1, 1-0. They won 5-0 in Game 2, and then Chicago actually got on the board, but lost 3-2 in overtime in Game 3. Game 4 is going to be tomorrow night at 8 on NBCSN. Who do I think is going to win this series? Yeah, I can't remember if I called it or not, but I said the potential for it is there. I think it's the Predators. So, real quickly, to recap, because I want to recap all these, we're going to have, according to me, we're going to have Nashville against St. Louis. We're going to have the Anaheim Ducks, the Mighty Ducks, against the Oilers. We're going to have Penguins, Capitals, and we're going to have Rangers, Bruins, which they're all fantastic matchups. So there you go. That's my take at this point. We're going to talk a little more hockey tomorrow night on Sports Club, on our bi-monthly all sports show. I'm going to have Cody Elias on that. We'll talk some NHL. We're going to talk some other stuff. But before I get out of here, very, very special Atlanta Gladiators announcement. Next week, we're gonna have a special segment because I'm gonna have a very special guest. And I'll be in the box, in the sin bin. I'll be in the box with captain, my captain, Derek Nesbitt of the Atlanta Gladiators. We're gonna talk all kinds of fun things, and I'm looking forward to it. I know he's looking forward to it. But either way, Gladiator fans, you definitely want to tune in. Even if you're not a Gladiator fan, you should tune in because Derek is fantastic, and we're gonna have a good time. But it's going to do it for me this week. Thanks for tuning in to BoardCheck. I am Jeremy the Impact York. We'll see you guys next week. Go watch hockey. It's on almost every channel right now. Go watch hockey. It's fantastic.